Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de. I just gotta address what seems like a pretty reasonable question that almost gave my brain an aneurysm. Seriously, this is how seriously I take these topics these days, because oh my god, there's so much people do not know. Question is pretty simple. Boils down to what app should I use to track a general portfolio, presumably your own, but on a daily basis? Oh god. Hey, Zampak here. Another day not working for the man. Oh man, I do enjoy trolling the FIRE Facebook group because I see so many beginner level questions that are just aggravating because that I can't help myself. I want to rant about this, and this brings me to this lovely and simple question that I have a variety of issues with. Let me just read the actual questions, okay? And I quote, "Hi, I'm learning so much from the group here. One question, what app do you find most easy and accessible to check on your stocks and mutual funds on a daily basis? Thanks in advance," end quote. Pretty simple, right? So why is it that I find a question like this worth a facepalm to myself? I'm just gonna get into it right now because I'm so mad. But first of all, if you like rants like this or just want to laugh at my funny mug or whatever floats your boat, comment, like, subscribe, share, and all that social media buzzwords. Because I'm rich enough for me, and I will be great regardless of what you do. So first, as if the title of the clip didn't make this extremely easy to guess, right? It's the daily part that I have the most giant problem with, right? Nobody who's not a professional investor should be checking on their portfolio daily. To be honest, I might argue even the professionals shouldn't be checking their stocks daily, but I'll digress, right? I assume those guys know what they're doing, what with all the certification and training they had to go through. But even then, we all know the vast majority of the professional investor class cannot remotely beat the market either. So yeah, they can do what they want and fail at it, but for the rest of us, most of us, and especially people who are actually trying to achieve FIRE, checking the market on a daily basis would be a terrible, terrible idea. The reason for this is simple, right? Every time you check the prices of your portfolio, what you're really doing is inventing a new decision point for yourself, right? Let's say you bought stock A for $100 at some point in the past, right? Where should you sell this stock? Either for gains because it's gone up, or at a loss because it's dropping and you're feeling nervous and panicky, right? Well, most likely you will only make a decision if you know whether it's a gain or a loss, right? Most likely you'll do nothing if you don't have its current price in mind. Seems reasonable, right? Most people simply would not make a sale blindly, right? Irrespective of price, right? The fun part, of course, is that the FIRE mentality generally wants to steer people into very long-term investing horizons, right? I'm always talking about don't invest money you'd need in the next 5, but really preferably at least 10 years. So until that decade mark or longer is up, it doesn't matter what price the stock you already bought is at today, right? Not one lick. Ideally, just buy and hold forever, right? So it never matters what the new stock price is. Because if you know the new price, you're more prone to make an irrational, aka emotional decision instead. So what app should one use to check on your portfolio daily? The answer is simply no app, none. Never, ever, ever check on your portfolio daily. Unless, of course, you want to be just the sheepiest of all sheeps and follow trends. And doing that will guarantee that you lose your shirt at some point, okay? Okay, point number 2. Phew, now that I've gotten that part of the rant out of the way, I can actually answer the question of which app to use, preferably if you want to just keep track of your investments, but in a more reasonable monthly or quarterly or yearly basis, right? And frankly, I'm still a little taken aback by this question. I mean, where did the original poster buy his stocks? I mean, did he buy it with a person on the phone or with a paper certificate? I'm not even sure either of these are still options that exist anymore in the 2020s. I mean, seriously, I just assume that most people bought their stocks or whatever already via an app or an app from a brokerage. And, you know, as far as I know, most big brokerages do have apps because they want to make it easier for their customers to, you know, keep track of their portfolio. So I'm honestly just confused how anybody who has some stocks would ask where to track their stocks if they bought their stocks via apps, because you could just track it via the app where you made your purchase, no? I mean, presumably you like the app you use to buy stocks with, otherwise why did you buy the stock via that vendor, okay? Yeah, seems pretty simple. Anyway, I guess there is a possibility that the original poster was just asking where to track stocks prior to he or she actually dipping their toes into investing just yet, right? So I guess that would be a reasonable explanation, in which case I'd imagine the answer is, again, fairly simply, any trusted brokerage these days will do that. Right? They have apps, Rob, Fidelity, whatever, Vanguard, or even Robinhood or some app equivalent, right? I'm not knocking on the new app-only services, especially for people just starting out, right? I think it's totally fine for just testing the waters. Though I would suggest a more established brokerage if your investment amounts get sizable, let's say like past 5 figures. Oh, point number 3, last point, right? By the way, just wanted to mention, of course, the only exception to my whole don't check your portfolio every day thing is, of course, before you actually have made investments. Then it's fine if you want to see the trends or of whatever stocks you'd like to see. If that's the case, there's definitely all sorts of general trackers from Google, Apple, Yahoo, in addition to all the apps that I mentioned previously, right, from brokerages or Robinhood. But technically, this is an answer to a different question, right? Because then we'd be at the pre-investment stage, right? And I know before you buy an investment, it is inevitable we'd all want to look at the price at a pretty regular interval, right? But even at this stage, I would suggest that you look at the history of any stock or fund over the past like 5 years or more to see some real historical trends, right? And only purchase if you're okay with that level of trending over time. What happened in the last month or week or day or hour absolutely still does not matter. After all, you are investing to retire early, right? Not just a day trade and lose your shirt, right? Right? Okay, I'll stop. Just saying. If you wanted to day trade, the chances of reaching fire is basically 0.0001% or something like that, okay? As in, it is not impossible, but you've just made your own life much, much harder than it needed to be. So in conclusion, really the only thing to remember is not to check on your stock daily, ever. The reality is, I know we're all tempted to, all right? I know I am, right? And I have a pretty reasonable long-term portfolio. Frankly, I find it much easier to resist the temptation when the market is doing poorly. Because when the general market is doing well, I know if I check it, I'm not going to be tempted to sell, right? It's easier to stick to buy and hold when the market's going up, right? It's only when the market is doing poorly that I have that itch that might create problematic and unnecessary decision points for myself, aka by checking exactly how poorly my own investments are doing. But since I know that, all I do is resist and not check it. Instead, I'll wait until the weekend or wait until the month end, right? Just remember that no loss on stocks is actually a loss until you realize that loss by, well, liquidating that position, right? Well, that, and if your stock actually just collapses to zero entirely. But that's why we diversify, right? Just follow these simple rules and the journey to fire is clearly visible, right? It won't be easy, but it absolutely can be done. Hey, I did it, and I'm just some dude. Okay, cheers. I'll approach it.